Good day, everyone. My name is Aaron McIntosh. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at ActZero. Joining me in today's Fireside chat to provide some insight into the importance of Hyperscale SOC and what it takes to achieve it is Jennifer Mitchell, Head of Operations here at ActZero. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks, Aaron. Happy to be here.
Quick housekeeping note before we get started for those audience members joining us today. If you do have any questions, please submit them via the questions space on the right side of your screen. We'll get to as many of them as possible at the end of the session. So security and risk management leaders often struggle to maintain effective operations centers. As the businesses and threat landscapes grow, many people throw extra resources, bodies into the SOC to get ahead, or at least try to keep up. Unfortunately, that often perpetuates inefficiency and isn't necessarily scalable at all. And that's why I have Jen joining me today, as I know she's lived and breathed a lot of these same challenges that you may be having in the SOC world, and she probably shares some of those same battle wounds as well. Luckily, she's got some great guidance on addressing the common issues that help plague SOCs. So, Jen, let's dig in. What stands out to you as the most common challenges in achieving SOC efficiency?
Yeah, so the Security Operations Center is by its very nature a very volatile environment, and it presents multiple challenges because of that. So one of the main things is because of the volatility, because of the randomization of what you see every single day, it becomes very difficult to plan anything. And inherently, in operations, any kind of operational planning, it's increasingly important to be able to do so. So one of the main challenges we see there is how do you actually plan, structure, make projections around your operations center if whilst working within a volatile environment. And one of the other reasons that makes it so volatile and makes it so difficult to continue planning is there's just a complete overload of information. If you're doing a good job, you're trying to take in as much data as possible, but that inherently becomes problematic. And so how do you actually develop the processes, the tools, the structures, the people to deal with that information and to actually pick out the things that are important to look at, that are important to investigate, and that are actually important for security experts to pay attention to? And so that's really where, we start looking into machine learning and AI to try and help with that last piece.
And we've invested a lot in AI and machine learning as of late. Quite frankly, we're founded on it. So let's talk a little bit about how it helps.
Yeah. So there's a few different kind of outcomes to ML that has a positive impact. So first of all, if we talk about the outcome to the SOC itself. So everybody knows about how we try to prioritize stuff within a SOC, any SOC environment that does that. What machine learning essentially does is it takes that to the next level. So we talk about a level of prioritization in our detections, in the alerts that we get, that enables us to really spend the time where it is most valuable. So the detections in themselves are better, right? We have more time to spend on valuable investigations based on those detections that come out, and then less time, spent on useless alerts, right? So it's really, the outcomes are kind of what you would expect there. And what that does then is it starts to deal with the first problem of planning, is once you have a better sense of how and when the really valuable stuff trends coming in, you start being able to free up time for more proactive threat hunting, which is another aspect of the service that we do. And so that's where we really start digging into customers' environments, really started dealing with the unknown and starting to solve some of those cutting edge problems that we really want to be at, and we really want to use our security expert skills in the best way. Now, to our customers, then that means that we start reducing alert fatigue significantly, and as a result, then help our tech and security and other people in their environments in prioritizing their work. So then we have the customer spending less time on needless alerts that you might see for MSSPs, because we're not in the business of vanity incidents. We have some customers that may not see an incident for a few weeks, and it's by design. We only want to tell you about the things that you absolutely need to know about. The other thing where it helps is that there's a continuous improvement then into the machine learning models and the detections themselves. So yes, initial development release into the SOC, But then as our security experts and our threat hunters interact with those detections and the machine learning models on a daily basis, it creates this really good feedback loop where our models, our detections are continuously evolving. It's not a case that we update them every so often or we review them every so often. It's like continuously evolving as they then improve over time, which just feeds back into the whole process again.
Yeah, and that's not, I mean, that's beneficial for every type of threat. And I think that's becoming even increasingly important as we get into emerging threats that are changing, and that landscape is evolving all the time. So that is a very important part of the service and part of, constantly improving. So in terms of frameworks, there's lots out there to choose from. There's many different versions of what SOC should look like. How'd you go about determining what model or what parts thereof you want to include in ours?
I mean, the short answer there is we didn't.
Fair enough.
Part of our reimagining of the SOC was realizing that to use these machine learning detections in the right way to make the most out of the tools that we, either build or adopt means that we actually have to design an operation center that is bespoke and exactly what we need. And so when you look at traditional SOC environments, a lot of them are normally based in the theory of ITIL, which has its place and is very important, but was rooted in IT services. IT services inherently is a little bit more predictable than cybersecurity. And so when we were looking at all these different models, over the years and, different companies, it's clear that they just don't fit. So what we actually found that over time is we created processes and structures that were specific to what we needed, that built in that inherent flexibility that we needed. And so you'll really find a mixture of a lot of different kind of structures that you wouldn't expect. So things like project management, program management, even some of the agile development, we pick for all the best bits to actually fit what we need.
Mm-hmm. So jumping a little bit, evaluating your SOC and evaluating how well it's working, you're always looking towards what you've talked about as the trifecta, and how it applies to us. Can you run us through your thoughts on how you use the trifecta as a bit of a guiding light?
Sure. So when we think about what we're trying to achieve as a company, right, and which filters directly into our security operations center, it's really threefold. The first is we want to create and are creating a quality product that we can stand behind and that we can sell transparently and that we would be proud of and proud to buy ourselves, right, if we ever needed to. Yep. The second is that we want to make that product actually affordable to non-enterprise customers, right? So SMB mid-market style customers, because the reality is even though they may not be at a higher risk of being attacked or breached, there's definitely at a higher risk of the impact of that breach, whereas enterprise companies tend to have the budget and the resources to deal with a breach and to weather a breach. Mm-hmm. And so we want to make sure that we're creating a quality product that doesn't price our SMB and mid-market customers out of it. And then the third thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that it's profitable. Because at the end of the day, if we want to create a sustainable company, a sustainable service, that we're going to be there long-term for our customers, we're reinvesting into our people, we're hiring experts, we're investing into machine learning, the AI, everything that you're doing, we need to ensure that we also have a profitable company. And so when we talk about efficiency means trying to maintain the profitability while maintaining the non-negotiable quality of the product as well.
Yeah, and you do mention hiring. So, for those out here, if you have any friends who are in the cybersecurity industry or not looking to get into a SOC and have those things, we're always looking to hire new people. So we'll drop that in there as well. So I know you've talked a lot about the processes. We've talked about the frameworks and support, ground to help ground the SOC. Let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about the people. Can you chat a little bit about how you've built the team and what's involved with that?
So there's a very similar journey we went through with the people as we did when we talked about the structures and frameworks of the SOC, which is that the traditional way of handling employees of the SOC is not really fit for the purpose that we wanted. And so we, through the redesign of the structure, realized that that traditional structure of tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 was ineffective for what we needed and slowed us down. And so where we actually start seeing successes was where we very much lean forward into a very basic level, Aaron, treating people like people, right? And that shouldn't be groundbreaking, but sometimes it is. Where there was conscious efforts to lean into the coaching and the mentoring, making sure they're well trained, but also making sure that they're paid well and they've got good work-life balances and we're not burning them out. And everything that we do, even the machine learning models, factors into the fact that we want them to be doing work that they're satisfied in doing, right? And so on any given day, they have this inherent flexibility where some of their day might be planned out, but the other bit is a little bit open to projects. And so some days they might be working on detections. They also might be threat hunting. They also might be helping test out new detections. They also might be creating marketing videos, right? And so really leaning into building out a team that you value as a highly skilled team that they are actually got us a lot of successes. And it really meant that we just had this retention, right? That was kind of not seen before in this environment.
Yeah, and I'll make a call out as well. I know, thank you to allowing the team to come over and help us in marketing. For those who may not be aware, under our resource section, there's a number of videos there. You can hear directly from our threat hunters and members of the SOC as well, who have graciously donated their time and expertise to talk about important subjects. We've also called upon members of the SOC to help us with a lot of strategic initiatives as we're looking at, how do we gather the best threat intelligence? How is that used? How do we improve the process of information flowing into the SOC? I think, to your point, it keeps them very engaged and active and draws upon skill sets outside the traditional job description of a SOC. So thank you for that. And to anyone listening, this is quite an important group of people in our company, and they add a tremendous value. So, however, we are mindful of one fact, and that's, we often hear a lot about SOC burnout. Recently, Eponymon Institute had put out a survey, I think from July of this year, where they indicated that about 70% of SOC employees or incident response members and analysts agreed that, burnout is a really big issue for them, and it's mostly due to high pressure environments. So how are you keeping your staff happy and motivated?
A lot of it falls into what we answered in the first question, but it was really making the psychology of the workforce a priority that actually was built into the strategies and the goals of the companies, like the actual business goals. And so even if, from a subjective perspective, you struggle with the business case for, I need to invest in treating my people well, there is a very strong business case for doing so. And so with all of the aforementioned tasks and stuff that we did, we also made sure that we are constantly engaging them, and we were constantly, inviting their opinion, of course, into things and actually giving them the ownership over what they're doing. And so as a result, they feel very engaged in the process. They've started to drive a lot of our higher strategy stuff when it comes to efficiency themselves, because they see the value in it and they see that they are valued. And so, we could talk about all of the little things as to all the little things that we do, but really when we talk about results is, we have 100% of retention of SOC employees over 2 years. And we also have one of the most diverse SOCs that we've ever seen across multiple factors. The one, for example, is we are 60% female and AFAB women. And that's not including me. And we see that as being a result of the cultures and the values and the work environment that we have created in that SOC, that people want to work for us and they want to stay with us. And because you are not continually training, you don't have that revolving door of people, we have this great information retention across the company as well. I cannot overstress how important this piece is, because we've actually seen results in our efficiency from people and employee satisfaction activities only. Like the only causation effect there were people activities that we're doing that had direct impact on our efficiency of what we were doing, which was helping our business goals.
Yeah, and I'll pull up. I happen to have it handy, but this is something we have internally. I hope you don't mind me sharing it, but as we work on new efficiency goals to improve for the end customer, we celebrate. And a lot of companies will get to the point of delivering on numbers, but they never celebrate it. And ActZero and your team in particular make a big deal about celebrating those wins. So kudos to you. Very happy to work with the team. They're always friendly. They're always excited to join in on something, which I love. I absolutely love about our SOC and the team. So kudos again to you for building that environment. Now, you've got this great SOC structure in place right now. Everything seems to be running really smoothly, from an operational perspective. How do you know it's actually working? Can you talk a little bit about the, kind of how you measure that?
Yeah, we've talked, so far a lot of the questions we've talked about subjectively, some of the actions that we've taken. Fundamentally, ActZero, we're a data company and we live and die by the data and the results and the KPIs that we set. As a result, when it comes to the SOC specifically, we track everything. Every little thing you can possibly think of, we track. And it was an interesting start to when we realized that we were going to have to do that to start making any meaningful changes, and how we were going to tackle that and still maintain that satisfaction, right? Because tracking everything can be very overbearing. And so whilst we track the normal stuff, like, of course, mean time to response and time to detect and all of those things that you would expect within, security metrics, we're also tracking granularity of time to task, depending on time of day, and all the different trends that we see over time. What is incredibly important to understand if you want to do this is that you have to go in with the intention and then prove to your employees that you are tracking this data for the purpose of making improvements across the environment, the structures, and continuous improvement, automation, all of those things. And you do not use that data for performance management. As soon as you start tying the tracking of this data to performance management, personal goals, and everything that comes with that, then you will lose the fidelity of that data, and you will lose the clarity and the granularity that you will see, because people will track with their personal goals in mind. And that's a really important thing. You then have to assess that data without ego. And so you have to go through and say, hey, we're starting to see this particular trend. Maybe this is because of a decision you made 2 weeks ago, and you have to be willing to be like, that didn't work. We're going to pivot. We're going to do something else. And so when you do that, and you can prove that, and you can prove to your employees that you're doing this with good intentions, then you will find that your employees themselves will actually come back, and they will start analyzing the data, and they will start coming to you with trends that they're seeing and ideas for improvement, and where we can apply automation and where you can start optimizing stuff. Once you get to that point, you just start having this like beautiful wheel of improvement, which starts to just perpetuate itself.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. And that goes back to the continuous improvement. We had talked about, how do we apply that earlier to machine learning? And this goes to both, internal efficiency of the SOC, and then external to the rest of the teams. How do we support your team to become even more efficient? And that's, a big goal, a big value of our company, that continuous improvement. So I'm going to take a few moments now. Thank you for everything so far. I appreciate the chat. We do have some questions in the questions panel here that I wanted to jump to. So the first one we have is, cutting back on alerts to the SOC sounds great, but how do we know that you're not missing something or see what you saw?
Yeah. So, let's be straight about this. There's a reason I'm in operations and not sales. No security service out there is 100% effective. And so you always have to expect that there are going to be things that you miss, and then you have to plan for when those things happen. And so on one hand, we do see the results of our detections, and we do see if something were to happen. Of course, we would see that straight away, because we are a managed detection and response service. And so we've also built a very robust incident response portion within the SOC that is there to fall back on should it be needed and should we miss something. And the way that we know that our quality and fidelity of the detections and what we're seeing is very high is directly due to how infrequently we actually have to evoke that incident response for our customers. So the answer is you never really know. That is the nature of cybersecurity. It is constantly evolving, and the bad actors are constantly evolving their methods of getting in. We just always have to try and stay ahead of it. And we are there with the services as well, should something fall through the cracks.
Yeah, and as I think you mentioned, the within the customer portal as well, we do have a dashboard that kind of shows the number of attacks coming in, or number of security incidents, I should say, and how many of those are escalated in that. So there is some additional metric tracking there that is available to our customers in the portal format.
Mm-hmm.
Now the next question I have is, can you share some metrics about your own efficiency gains by becoming hyperscale?
Yeah. So we had a great moment of validation recently. I don't know if anybody read Google's new white paper they put out about 10xing your SOC. Now, we've been working on this for the past couple of years, and very invested in it being the right thing to do. We, according to the industry standards and the same ones that Google are using right now, we are currently 20x based on their metrics according to industry standards of our SOC efficiency. Now, there's multiple ways people measure it, right? They can measure, endpoints manageable by an analyst, or environments or customers. There's a few different ways that you can do this, but based on the industry standards, we are 20x the current industry standard.
It's amazing. And for those interested in that report as well, you should be able to find it by Googling Google 10x white paper. We'll see if we can put that in the notes afterwards, or as we put out things regarding this, we'll try to tag that in there as well for you. Now the next question I have, Jen, is one that I can probably answer. Maybe you can add in as well. Do you have any materials that can help guide us on setting KPIs or metrics for our SOC? Yes, we do. So we have a number. One, we'll provide some of these to you in links. We have a white paper. These are also available on the resource section on our website as well. So we do have a white paper on cybersecurity KPIs that was put out earlier this spring. That is probably 7 pages, if not more, of great detailed information on how to build your KPIs, what to look for, how to measure them. Jen actually penned a blog recently about scaling your security operations by focusing on efficiency. So that's available on the website. Our head of sales engineering had written a blog on cybersecurity KPIs specifically for the SMB audience. So that's available for you. And then our head of operations, Jerry, had done a blog on the efficiency of meantime metrics in cybersecurity. So again, as well, talks a little bit about the metrics. And then we have a slew of other papers out there coming out that talk about meantime to detect, meantime to repair, and even things like meantime to resolve. So tons of resources available for you. If you get a chance, go there. If you have any questions as well, you can always reach out to us via info@ActZero.ai. Now, one other question I have that came in is, close this out. Do you work with your customer SOCs to help them improve as well? Fair question.
Yeah. So nuanced answer to this one. Directly, no. If the question is directly, do we work with them to apply our SOC methodologies and structures to their SOC? No. However, the impact of our SOC to security operations at our customers' environment is very keenly felt. And so by, through the methodologies and everything that we've invested in, and through the machine learning that we're using within our SOC, it means that we are now able to prioritize alerts, and incidents, and of course, the security advice and vulnerability advice that we give from the other aspects of our service to our customers. And so as a result, they are passively optimized through our prioritization that we are sent through. And so what we do give is we kind of give that peace of mind where maybe they don't have to lean as heavily into the optimization that we do, as providing the service. They're able to trust in the prioritization that we're sending through. So we kind of cut through a lot of the crap, for want of a better word, for our customers' security operations to enable them to be more focused and to spend more time where it's needed in a valuable way. And I think what's important, even just as a high level piece of advice here, we do talk a lot about efficiency. It's important to recognize that you can achieve efficiency in a lot of ways, but if you're not maintaining your quality of the service at the same time, there's no point. And so when you are looking at improving your SOC and when you are maybe looking at, kind of taking some of these pieces of advice on, you can focus very heavily on efficiency, but you have to build in the qualifiers and the indications to make sure that you are maintaining and constantly improving the quality of your product alongside it. So it was just an important point I wanted to make there as well.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate that, as is the audience. And we are almost at time. So before I miss this, Jen, thank you for taking the opportunity to talk to me today. Share your valuable insight from the SOC for the audience. I'm sure they probably gained a lot better insight into what Hyperscale SOC was, kind of how we've addressed it, take home those considerations back to their own business, also consider us for their MDR needs as well. Thank you to the audience members for sticking with us for the half hour. If we didn't get to your question or you have any questions you want to send us at a later date, please do. You can reach us at info@ActZero.ai. And if you have any, you want to read a little bit deeper, you have any other questions about ensuring your data and systems are secure, we have a ton of new content coming out all the time. It is available at ActZero.ai in a resources section. So thank you again for joining us today. We hope you learned a little bit more about how you can hyperscale the SOC, how we've done it here, and how ActZero can help you cover more ground on your journey to securing your business. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.